I have a few words that I wanted to say about spring. Uh, we're really in it now. In the Western calendar, of course, it began on March 21st with the spring equinox, and some of the Taoist calendars were really just finishing the apex of spring. We're kind of coming down from it, that it really came to be just when we were, oh, I see, just when we were ready to kind of emerge. This is a time of year where you'll find that there's a lot of it can be a lot of turmoil. A lot of times people think about spring as being, flowers and colors and trees and young lovers and all that kind of stuff. But actually, it can be a time of immense pressure because spring, as you know, as you see in nature, regardless if you're anywhere in the country where there's a lot of snow, there was a lot of snow where I am here just a couple of days ago, or whether you're starting to see buds or crocuses or other types of daffodils, other types of early spring flowers coming up, there's a lot of energy pushing to come forth. It's a time when there's a lot of the inner work that you've done, and you may have more that you still need to do, but there's a pressure around how to match what's happening internally, what you're going on inside of you, and how to express that in ways that best move you forward to the outside world. It's a time of moving from yin, or internal contemplation, into yang, which is more that outward expression, interconnection, or state of interbeing that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in such a powerful way. So I wanted to say a few words about it because this can be a tumultuous time. I wanted to offer a couple of ideas or thoughts that might help you ride the shift of this season as we move sort of going towards summer, how we can really work to match that internal and external. One of the things they tell us in Chinese medicine is that the liver is associated with the element of wood. And the liver, a liver is the organ of spring. So if the spring starts to generate energy in the liver is one of our main detoxification organs. It has over 300 functions in Chinese medicine, but what I really want to say about it is that it's an incredibly regenerative organ. So it's partly the fact that it's part of spring, and the ways in which spring is all about energy regenerating makes a whole lot of sense to me. Hi Julia, hi Joan, good to see you both. So anyway, what I think is important to know is that you may feel a certain amount of pressure. A pressure to be or do something, or internal pressure, or something coming out to be expressed. It's a time of birthing, a time of rebirthing. It's a time to think about what energy you want to give to what's coming forward. Maybe some new creative expression. It could be a new element in your work. It could be a new way you're relating to other people. It could be just how you're relating to yourself, your own inner work. Or it could be something that is not brand new. It's something that you're rebirthing. It's something that you're wanting to re-engage. But those of you who were at the Nourish the Flame workshop this past winter, when we were really working with some of the winter energy, know that we were planting a lot, just like we do at the beginning of a year, or so many of us do, is with resolutions or intentions for the year ahead. Those have all been sort of gestating, growing inside of you. And now there's this time where the rubber kind of hits the road, where it's time to kind of move things out. And it's really important to have that liver stay in balance. So one thing I always like to recommend for people is a very simple energy practice from Qigong. It's called baking the liver, and you basically can just clap your hands together, rub them, and then put one hand on the front of your liver, which is on the right side of your body, right over your ribs, and then the other hand on the back. I'm going to back up a little into the tree so you can see. So you just are basically letting energy come from one hand into the other, just move back and forth through your liver, warming your liver, and that helps the liver to kind of calm down and do the work that it needs to do in this cleansing time. A lot of people like to do fasts at this time, or detoxification diets. In any case, it's a great time to eat sour foods and help to do the cleansing. Lemon juice is a great thing to be drinking right now, warm lemon juice, to help move things through in a gentle way. I think that one of the things that to know is, because there's like these, it's almost like if you think about how grass grows through concrete. I sometimes live in the city and sometimes live in the country. And in the city, one of the things I love seeing is how those grasses come up through concrete, come through the sidewalks, or the roots start to push up. That there's this sense of urgency or emergency. And so it can feel like an emergency. It can feel very, very intense. So baking the liver is a good thing to do. Another thing that I think is really great to do is this medical Qigong move for the liver, where you're just going to bring your hands in towards your sides, and you just extend one arm and then the other. And you see I have my fist is turned down towards the ground. When you bring your hand back, the fist turns up towards the sky. So you have the fist down as you extend and fist up as you come in. It's a very, very simple move. And as you do this move, you want to have a little bit of a sense of the spine moving back and forth like this. So it's almost like it's wringing out the liver. It's a very, it's a very gentle way to, again, help the liver function. Now, liver is not that's the medical aspect of this season, but what was really interesting to me is what are we birthing? What are the seeds that you have planted? What are the things that feel like they're amazingly important to you? Julia, you say you're feeling that internal birthing stress. I totally know what you mean. It's something where it can bring up a lot of energy like this. And the idea is to how do we then just kind of relax it? So doing this punching movement or doing the baking the liver are great things to do. I so much love working with the energy of spring, partly because I'm a spring baby. My birthday is in, I think you've got something like 16 or 16 shopping days till my birthday, so keep that in mind. What you want to do is to kind of look at really where do you want to grow? What is it that you want to grow, and where do you want to grow? And it's not always like what do you want to create results, say if you have a business or if you're an entrepreneur, or external results. It can be internal results also. But this is definitely a time where what is internal is coming out, is going to be expressed. And just like any type of birth, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. And what we want to try to do is sort of minimize the suffering around that, to minimize the amount of angst that it can bring up, or the traditional Chinese medical association with the liver is anger. And some systems say that when you move energy through the liver like we do here, you're shifting anger into kindness and forgiveness. And I always say this again and again. Those of you who are my students here know that I say this 100 times, is that I think it starts with forgiveness of yourself. So if you see anger around you, road rage, you see people, kind of tense or intense, just know that a lot of times that may be just liver energy out of balance, and it's absolutely natural for that to start to express itself during this time of year. There's a beautiful Qigong form called Blossom in the Spring that I practice at this time of year and that I share with my students at this time of year. And what I love about it is it sort of tells like a life cycle of a plant or a blossom. And in that blossom, there's metaphors for the different stages that we might be going through as we have this sense of regeneration, the sense of life, death, rebirth, that which unites us to all living beings. And I'm not going to go through the whole form here. It's fairly long. I will be doing it in a event on April 8th and 9th, so if you're interested, do check that out. I'll put the link below. But what I want to say for now is I want to tell you a little bit about what the story is of this form, because when we look at the story, we can start to think about how can we use this time of year to really keep ourselves grounded, present, and able to bring what is in out in a way that is the most meaningful both for ourselves and also for the people in our world. So, and as you all probably know, I'm a very big investor in being able to believe in paradigm shift. How do we shift a paradigm that we're in so that we really become more reciprocal, more interdependent, aware of our interdependence in a whole new level. So this is a time of year to really look at this, how are we part of nature, right? Because with nature, you're seeing blossoms things start to pop up, start to come out. Just like we're part of nature, that's what's popping out of us. So in Blossom in the Spring, you actually begin the form with taking a seed from your heart. So again, could be an intention that you planted early at the beginning of the year, or it could be something that's just coming to you now. It could be something that you're wanting to re-energize, or something brand new that's coming through. Maybe you have a new art piece that's coming forward, or you're writing a book, or you're doing something that's really expressing yourself. So that seed, warmed by the heart, then falls to earth, and in the form there's a movement where we're basically watering it with your thoughts and your intentions and your feelings, and then that seed sends out its roots. And this is an important piece, because when those roots go down, they move around any kind of obstacles, say little stones or pebbles or other roots. They look for where the nourishment is. So when a seed sends out its roots, that's how those roots go. They don't drill through a rock. They move around that rock looking for nourishment, looking for water, looking for the nurturing qualities of the earth. So the question becomes for us, when we're thinking about birthing something new, what is it that we can do to nourish ourselves? I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of times when you're doing something where you're sort of going to a new level of empowerment, or a new level of who you are. And what happens is that you start to get these naysayers, whether they're internal saying, who are you, you can't do that, or you have other people actually saying, oh, that doesn't make any sense, or whatever. You have these kinds of naysayers happen. The question is, how do we move around that so that we can really seek nourishment? So what is it that nourishes you? What is it that helps you to sustain your intention, helps you water the creative energy that's flowing in you right now? What is it that you can go for? Maybe it's as simple as talking to somebody that you love. Maybe it's petting one of your pets. Maybe it's making a particularly nourishing food for yourself to nourish yourself for the spring. It could be anything, but the question that I pose to encourage you to look for is, where can I get nourishment? Because this is a time when you've got these seeds looking for their nourishment. This is a time to look very intentionally for what will help. Once those seeds have got their roots firmly planted, then that seed starts to put out a stem, and it comes up and it pushes up through that winter hardened surface of the earth, right? It's pushes through the concrete, pushes through whatever it pushes through, and goes to the light of the sun. Just think those translucent little shoots, those of you who are gardeners, those translucent little shoots that then become more and more green as the sun beams on them. And the sun, of course, has to do with your overview, your inspiration. The sun is like the light that comes down to sort of illuminates you, and that starts to green up the plant, which allows it to become more sturdy, more resilient. And then it puts out its first expression from the heart, which is a branch. Now all of this is embodied in this beautiful Qigong form. I'm just talking the story for you right now because I think there's some pieces that are useful. So once it puts out its branch, its first branch, there's a leaf that appears, and that heralds the appearance of a bud. And then the bud begins to open, and then it appears to close. So you know how in nature a lot of times flowers will open and then they'll close and then they'll open? Well, that's what this form does. It has this bud that opens and then begins to close. And what that is about is a very interesting phenomenon to me, because I experience it so often, which is when you're putting something out there, there's a time where it's almost like anything you can think of that would sort of counteract this expression starts to come. It's almost like a testing ground. I'm thinking of one time I was doing a workshop, a summer workshop, and as I was preparing for it, the summer's all about the heart and opening your heart and really being radiant in your own power, and so I was all jazzed about teaching this workshop, and I had a series of events that felt like betrayals or felt like incredibly painful to my heart things. It sort of happened all one cascading on top of another, almost like the world was saying, who do you think you are? Of course the world is not saying that, but this is my mishigas that I'm exposing to you. But who do you think you are? You really, you can't talk about opening your heart, because look at all of these bad things that you're angry and you're upset and this and that and the other thing. And then, of course, I went through a resolution process, and it almost feels like I had to kind of go through that dive down in order to come out to be able to teach in a way, to really have a leg to stand on. When I was writing my book, I had this, I was going to write my book about how to access joy as a fuel. What are techniques and tools that we can use to really have joy as a fuel in our everyday life? And then I had a series of events where my mom had breast cancer in both breasts. So, dear friend and senior student of mine died of lung cancer. My wife's father died. My own father died. There were all of these different events that cascaded as I was writing that book. And I had this friend who actually said, I'm so frustrated for you, Vicki. You took this sabbatical to write this book, because I actually stopped everything when I was writing it. It was really a book of, it's my life work. And and she said, it's so frustrating that you're having all of these interruptions. But I realized that every single one of those interruptions was a testing ground to say, well, it's fine to say joy is a fuel, but what does it mean, not just if you're suffering, but if you're watching somebody that you love suffer? How do you access joy as a fuel then? What actually works? So it gave me a chance to really ground the material that I was wanting to offer through my writing, to ground it in something very, very real. So in this blossom thing here, where we have the blossom happening, it begins to open, and then it appears to close to gather more strength, courage, compassion from the heart. You can almost expect it. You begin to expand. There's a time of contraction, which is where you really have to go to the heart of the matter. What matters to you the most? What is it that, what is your why, for those of you who are entrepreneurs or business people? But even if you're not even in that, which is fine, what is the why? Is it just to have a good life, to feel like you're connected to people, to feel like you're having fun, to feel like you're, have that sense of interconnection? What is that why? What's in there that is really saying, yes, no matter what, I'm going to do this? This is the moment of empowerment. You start to open, you get challenged, you gather more strength, courage, compassion from the heart before the blossom opens into full blossom, which is a glorious moment in this particular Qigong pattern. And so I just wanted to kind of put some of those pieces out. Of course, the form goes on where there's a medical part where you're feeding yourself, and then the final piece of it is actually kind of cool, because it's where the blossom comes to seed, where, how when plants get mature and they seed, and then those seeds scatter in the wind, and the seeds have everything to do with who you influence. Who are the people who, when you walk your talk, when you're really who you are, when you're really on your path with full integrity and owning it from a sense of pure you-ness, selfness, when you're really in that, then that influences the people around you. How could it not? They're drawn to you. It's sort of like what the law of attraction is all kind of based on, is that when you have sort of are changing how you feel about things, what you think and how you feel, that changes how you behave, and that's what allows the law of attraction to work. It really has to do with this internal work, and how it gets expressed. So this is the seeds, or how then then other people are drawn to us, or they're inspired themselves to then put out their roots and then to start their own emergency. And the final part of the form is all about harnessing yin and yang, how yin moves into yang, moves into yin, moves into yang, and how that ties us into a cycle of life, death, and rebirth, which, as I said earlier, unites us with all living beings. So that's the blossom in the spring form, and I just thought I would describe some of these metaphors to you, because you may find it useful. You may find it useful to think about, where am I going to get my nourishment? How am I going to deal with my contractions or my resistance? How am I going to do, what I want to do? So this is also a time, I think, of breakthrough. I said, and I've sort of implied that in the stuff that I've said, that things are coming forward in you. And breakthrough, wow, I've been going through so many breakthroughs myself. I've been sharing that with some of my Way of Joy women's community group. Just a quick brushstroke, one of them is I've started to realize the difference between service and servitude. So much of my work is about being in service to people. And because of my background and because of a bunch of different factors, a lot of times it's fallen into servitude, which is kind of a leaning forward and a kind of bent over, and it doesn't really serve the other person. It actually creates an unhealthy dynamic, and it also, of course, doesn't serve me. So how to come from service as opposed to servitude has been one big breakthrough. And another one has been about my work, which is really wrapped around this event that I'm doing on April 8th and 9th, the Spring Breakthrough event, because for those of you who know me, know that I've basically had two tracks in the work that I've done over the last 30 plus 40 years. One is the inner work of the Qigong, what I think of as the yin aspect, the receptive aspect of the Qigong. How do we nourish ourselves? What do we do with our energy field? And then the yang aspect having to do with rock star speaking and storytelling, which has everything to do with how we express ourselves, how do we tell our story, how do we connect with other people, how do we interact with the world around us, the external or the yang aspect. And yin, like I said, moves into yang, which moves into yin. And inside of yang, if you've ever seen the yin-yang symbol, there's a little dot of yin inside of the dark, a little dot of dark inside of the light of yin. Or vice versa, I'm sorry. But anyway, there's a little dot inside of each of those little fishes. I've been thinking a lot about that because I've been thinking, Qigong, of course, incorporates yin and yang. It's all about balance. But when I think about my teaching of it, I'm really looking at what are the inner ways that we can use some of these forms, some of the metaphors that are embedded in these forms, to really work our inner game, to really feel like we are embodying our power, standing in our ground from the inside out. And so that when we get the energy flow through us, it allows us to show up, to connect with people on a whole different level. So I think of that as sort of the yin aspect of my work. And I just realized this just the other day. And that yin moves into yang, so that as you encourage yourself to really be in your power, to really feel like you're going to do whatever it is that you do, to let energy flow through you, that starts to impact how you interact with others. It starts to express itself in the yang in terms of, the outward expression of who you are. So the yin of the Qigong work moves into yang. At the same time, when I'm teaching my rock star storytelling and speaking, I'm really looking at a very yang aspect, which is how do you get up on a stage and tell your story, or even if you're not somebody who gets up on a stage or has any interest in it, how do you express yourself? What are the things that you say? How do you say it? What are the essence of what you want to put out, and how do you do that? That's all very yang, self-expressive. And then when you do that, it takes you into a deeper transformational process that is yin, right? So what I've here again and again, I just finished a rock star speaking showcase, and every single one of the 10 people who participated in it talked about the major inner transformation, that their life changed just by doing that. So that external expression led to an internal transformation, so that yang went back to yin. This is very exciting for me because for me, I've always included a little Qigong in my rockstar speaking and theater game stuff, and I've always included a little bit of theater improv in my Qigong classes. But this is now coming together as an integration and realizing that one cannot exist without the other. So whether it is for you around, whether you do Qigong or yoga or writing as a meditation or whatever it is that you do, and then whatever you do externally in terms of how you deal with, how you communicate, how you interact with other people, this is really important to look at how those one influences the other. It creates kind of a wheel. I know I may be getting very, very esoteric here, but for me this has been like a pa! My brain has exploded because it was like finally. I've had people tell me, you should really pick one thing to focus on and that's what you should do. And I can't give up either one of them because it would feel like cutting off not just an arm, a whole half of my body. And finally I've understood why it's felt so integrative to me and so important. So that's what I have to say today. So it's great to see, hi John, oh my gosh, an old college buddy. It's great to see how many people have joined. It's great to see, where you are, and I'm glad you joined me for this today. If you are interested in learning more about this beautiful form and how you can use energy of spring, and we'll dive deep into that story at the event, please do come April 8th and 9th. Not, it's like a pitch, pitch, pitch. I'm not really trying to pitch it. I'm just letting you know this is an incredible opportunity. And then on the second half of that, we're going to be working with the how do you tell your story, and what are the stories you tell yourself, and how you transform them, how do you pivot them so that you're really able to, every time stuff happens, you can elongate your spine, come out, not by being in denial or raising yourself above it or just pretending to be happy, but really to be able to own that sense of alignment between what's called heaven, or heaven, rather, your inspiration, and earth, which is all about your grounding and how you walk your talk. How can we do all of that in an externalized way? So I wanted to let you know that that's happening as an opportunity for you. But whether you can come to the event or not, please do think about what are the seeds? B, what is it that nourishes that seed, so that when you hit obstacles or you hit something that says no, that you're able to kind of move around it and find the juice. And then C, how do you work with the expansion and contraction as you move into a new level of empowerment? And then finally D, how does that influence the people in your life? Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. It's so, so great to be able to talk to you. I'm, by the way, in case you're wondering, I'm here in Trinity County in the mountains. We actually have a spring day after having some rain and snow, so it's really wonderful to be outside connecting with you. I'm sending you lots and lots of mountain breezes. Till the next time I see you, be well and let the chi flow. Bye-bye.